Hi everyone, welcome to the Q&A for February. I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts, and I am so glad that you are here. I see there's a lot of good conversation already happening in the chat. People from as far away from Australia and Cape Breton Island and of course Texas. Hi Gladys, glad you're here. Ah, boy, look at, I've got so many familiar names here. I see them every month. Thank you all for showing up. Well, I've got one big change this month. We do not have Brandy in the chat. Brandy has gone on to bigger and better things. So I am just going to try and manage this all on my own. Maybe a little nerve-wracking, so please just bear with me. I see one of the very first comments on the chat is Bobby Hall has asked, where did I get my square timer? So here's my timer here. I actually have two of them. I've got one with these big numbers on it and one with smaller numbers. And I got it off of Amazon. And if you go to almost any video where I mention it, it's sitting in the description notes. It's on every video in the Declutter Challenge, so you can just find that link. Yep. So thank you everyone for coming. It has been a busy month already. I cannot believe it's busy year already. I can't believe it's February already. January seemed very long. I hope everybody had success in their Declutter Challenge. I know I did. Just amazing. I say this all the time, but it's saying it and living it is two different things. The space that comes with the Declutter Challenge is amazing. And right now I'm taking a break from making videos because I realized one thing that I needed to declutter is an old project. It's just been building up over time and I do need to take care of it. Just filing some paperwork with the government, but it's old numbers and I just got to find them and grab them from about 25 different places. And then that big project is going to be off my list. So I am just going to go down this list. I've got see somebody from Coburg. They're just down the street from me. Oh boy, Bellingham, Washington, Newton, Iowa. I love it when you put your flags in there. Thank you, Amelia from Australia. So I did put out a notice on Instagram and Facebook ahead of time. So I'm just going to grab some questions from there first before they appear in the chat. I'm just going to highlight the ones as I see them. And if you, people who have been here before, if you can just jump in and reference videos for people that are asking, I would appreciate it. Thank you. So, Cindy Ashby has asked. Now, she has, she's always has some really good questions, but here she has. My question is, do you have a skill building technique or something new that you intend to learn this year? Yes, I am taking a class at QuiltCon on matchstick quilting. I have a tendency to take classes at QuiltCon on techniques that I just hate or I'm really bad at, hoping that I will receive some instruction that will change my mind. So that's one. What was the biggest thing that I learned last year? I think it was, I did a much bigger dive on thread. I took a number of things for granted. It was just sort of in the background, and I knew the difference between polyester and cotton, and I knew a little bit about, well, I used different weights, so, and I knew about tension, but just doing a deeper dive because I've got an embroidery attachment for my new sewing machine and I'm wanting to take that up. So I needed to learn more. And actually my video next week will be on some of those 7 key things that you need to know. And those are my 2 big things. How much quilting and organizing did you get done when I worked full time? Well, my job was managing inventory full time. So I did a lot of organizing and a lot of keeping things nice and neat and decluttering and cleaning up at work. I wouldn't say I was necessarily as good at home. And part of that problem is my husband is a hoarder. And not that we have newspapers lined up in the hallway or anything like that, but my husband does not like to part with his stuff. And he has an encyclopedic knowledge where all of it is, but I would probably get rid of at least half of it. Like, I don't think you need the charger from the computer that you had 20 years ago still. But he thinks you may need it sometime. So he has his stuff and I have my stuff. Um, and there's always this panic, when I begin to throw things out. So I usually take things out of the main area and put them in a secondary location so that if someone says, "Where is that? I really need it," it's not out the door. And unless it's been like a year and I say, "Well, you didn't use it all last year." So that's one of the things I do at home. When I was working full time, I'm truly working full time now, but when I had a job working for other people, I quilted. I would probably quilt in phases. It was rare that I had the brain space to do it after a long day at work. It would have been more of a weekend thing. I know there were times when I could just barely hold my head up. And yeah, it was much more of a weekend thing. And yeah, that's now I try to, even now, here I have a quilting channel and I can go for a week sometimes without sitting down at my sewing machine. So, yeah, it just depends on what project is next. What do I have to do? How burnt out I've made myself. My New Year's resolution is to not clutter up my time, my calendar. I say yes to way too many things. I often say yes before I think it through. I say yes for a lot of things that I can do or I've done it in the past, but I'm now really focusing on projects that are a hell yes, I really want to do, and I'm trying to let the other things go. Yeah. So, Les Hawkins has asked, what measurements for sewing and cutting tables? I'm trying to set up an 11 by 9 sewing room. Thank you. It really depends on your space and how you use your space and what is around you, and a hierarchy, like, do you use it for anything else? Ideally, you would like to have a 24 by 36 cutting board beside you. But a lot of people don't have that kind of space. I don't have that kind of space here at the office, at the studio. So an 18 by 24, I think, is the size to aim for. And you can always cut in other locations. You can cut on the dining room table. You can cut on the kitchen counter. There's other places where you can cut some big projects. But that gives you enough fiddle room beside your machine. And I'm sure there's other people that have smaller. Jean Ridley has asked, after the declutter challenge, are you motivated to declutter other parts of your house? Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to I have these boxes of paper that I'm just getting it organized and I'm wanting them out of my room. So, yes, I am. And I don't take it in big chunks. I'm constantly decluttering. Like every week there's something that I'm decluttering, whether it be my medicine cabinet or the shower caddy or underneath the kitchen sink or something like that. But I'm always just usually taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes here, there, and just going, you know what? We don't need these anymore. They're just taking up space. They're boat anchors. Yeah. Just looking for some questions here. Oh, somebody's asking me if I'm coming to Paducah, Kentucky for Quilt Week. No, I'm not. But the funny thing is, I was thinking about Paducah today because, was was I doing? I was thinking about templates that I bought from Paper Pieces and realized they're out of Paducah. And why have I never not got to Paducah yet? So I think I'm going to ask some of my sew sisters if they feel like going there this summer, or maybe aligning it with Quilt Week next year. Yeah. Somebody's watching me on an airplane. Okay. Tammy Frankham has asked, do you plan on making any more videos where we follow you as you make a project? I love to see what other people are sewing. Well, that's where all my quilting ideas come from. It's what I'm working on right now and what you can learn from them. So usually over the course of maybe 3 months, you can see something that's happened at the beginning of the project to the big finish and the reveal at the end. So I'm constantly doing that. I'm trying very hard not to do outside that because the workload on top of that is just incredible. And as you know, I don't have a team of people behind me. It's just me. So I need to make the pieces that I'm sewing have to be for a quilt that I'm working on. When are we going to know more about the project that I'm making with the Tim Holtz fabric? I should have that ready probably in a couple of weeks. It's on my long arm right now, but I haven't started it yet. It is the, I'm going to say it wrong. It's a Portuguese word, alentejana. Alente is with a J in it. It's by Ships and Violins, and I've used it for the back. Yeah, so that beautiful Tim Holtz ephemeral look, you're going to get the full benefit of it. It's not going to be cut up and chopped into pieces. It's just going to be a big piece. I bought it on a trip in 2019 on my way to Missouri Star. We stopped at, I forget whether it was a Joann's or another quilt shop, and they were discontinuing or they were selling the ends of all this Tim Holtz fabric, and I love it so much. And I ended up buying a yard and a half of this and 2 yards of that and things like that. And it's not enough to do a double back, but it's enough to do one back. So that's what it's used for. Wanda DeBoyle has asked, do I store my pre-wash fabric scraps separately from my unwashed fabric scraps? Nope. I just throw them all and mount scrap more. Yes, some are shrunk, some are not shrunk, but when we're talking about pieces this small, that differential is not that high. There's a lot of seams, which will also help control it. And then over top of it, you're going to have stitching. So I don't worry about it. Any update on the adding machine tape? I am working right now, I'm finishing my maple and eucalyptus quilt. And if you don't know, maple and eucalyptus is the quilt that I'm making with Angie Wilson of Gnome Angel for this year's 100 Days, 100 Blocks. So that's what all my energy is in. But when it's done, the adding machine tape is one of the next ones on the list. Somebody's asked, am I going to QuiltCon in Atlanta? Yes, I am going to QuiltCon. I'm actually arriving early. I'm heading out next Monday. I hope to volunteer one day and then catch up with other people. And if you are a member of Karen's Quilt Crew, that's my subscription club through YouTube. There's a join button right beside the subscribe button on my YouTube channel page. We're going to have a meetup. So I've already got a couple of people that are available. I'm not sure if Becca's here, but anybody else that's part of the crew and wants to meet up for a coffee, just send me an email at info and I'll send you details. And for people in the crew, we have our monthly Stitch and Chat coming up next week. So be sure to check that community tab and that'll give you details of when and where. Sorry, this is Allison Rainford. I'd like you to show me how to cut with a lined mat, ruler, and rotary cutter. I have 2 videos on how to use a rotary cutter, how to cut accurately and I think it's 10 mistakes that a lot of people make with their rotary cutters. So just go to my YouTube page and hit the search button, and you should be able to find them. Margaret Lowens has said she likes the Q&As. How's Mando? Mando is wonderful. Thank you for asking. He was actually here up until about 15 minutes ago, and yeah, I keep him close. We've been enjoying the winter so much, and he's such a good dog. Such a good dog. I lucked in so much, and we've just been having a good time in the snow. Our weather here in Toronto has changed so much. It was minus 19 last week. It was very chilly, and today it's plus 6. Um, but we go out in every weather, so it doesn't matter. Did I feel the earthquake? I think maybe this is something for someone else. It's not me, but Susan Brennan has asked. She's worried about her machine. Is plugging your machine into a surge protector enough? Should you unplug your machine after every use? No, if you've got it plugged into a surge protector, that should be fine. A surge protector will blow the fuse in the fuse bar first, and will stop electricity getting through to your machine. And yeah, that should be enough. I'm just looking through here to see whether I've got any more questions coming into the thing. How's my jaw? Thanks for asking, Corrine. So I had some pretty darn intense pain in my jaw, and it turns out I have pulled a muscle in my neck. I do Pilates, and as I've been getting stronger, of course, I've been doing harder and harder moves, and I reefed my neck doing something, and that just caused part of my jaw to move over top of that nerve. So every time I open my mouth wide, the pain goes from a 0 to a 12. The good thing is that it's no longer acute. It's still there, and I'm just keeping good care of that muscle, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term problem. I'm not accepting any more lectures right at the moment until it completely goes away, because I don't know whether I can talk for 45 minutes without pain, and I hate to stop in the middle of something. So thank you. Thanks for asking. Manuela Shannon got she said you wish you had gotten a green one. The timer, yes, they come in beautiful colors. I wish I had gotten a green one too. Mine is just a white one. Some people from Puerto Rico are on. Okay, let me just see if I can find another question in here. Already answered that one. Some people asking, what do we do here? Red saddle, same as mine. Sewing table height. My back kills me during cutting. Any suggestions? So ergonomically, what you want is when you turn sideways, you want your shoulders to drop and your elbows, like your arms, just to hang. The big thing that people make a mistake in cutting is that they hold that rotary cutter like it's going to slip out of their hand and fly across the room. And that causes your whole arm to tense up. So it goes up your arm, goes up your shoulder. The real trick is to use your hips. It's a motion going through. You just hold it. I'm not going to say lightly, but your hand is relaxed. You're not holding it super tight. And be sure the one that you want to have the pressure on is the other hand that's holding the ruler, because your blade should just be gliding up the table. The other thing is the height of your table. You want, if your arms are hanging, you want your table height to be probably about 4 inches lower than your elbows. And that just gives you a little bit of wiggle room in the height of the rotary cutter. And that's going to be different for all of us. You know, they've got this standard size. Somebody decided at some point there was a standard size, and, you know, that's only maybe 10% of the population is that standard size. We got people that are higher, people that are lower. So do what's your right height. I made my cutting table here the right size, and it's incredible what a difference it makes cutting at the right height is. Um, but it's hard. It's hard not to grip. I've been noticing this past week, like I've been holding on to my iron like a death grip, and just letting go of the iron, and letting the iron just do its work without me, you know, holding and thinking I've got to slam it all down. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just checking. Read or heard somewhere, the best answer to offers is let me check my schedule and I will get back to you. That's not a bad one. So that's in response to me saying no to things, just having to check your schedule, pause, never say yes to everything immediately. Just wait a little while. Desert Dream says, I need to quilt a king size Irish chain quilt. I will be using my home machine. What will be a good design? I'm not a good free motion quilter, wavy lines, straight lines on the diagonal. A king size on your home machine, you're gonna get bonus points for doing that. What would be a good design? I would keep it simple. Personally, if you're not a prolific quilter on your home machine, I would go with wavy lines. They'll get you across the entire quilt. And they can go wonky when they go wonky, and that's just part of the design. So I made a video called 10 Fast and Easy Quilting Designs, and I think that's #1. I still think that is the way to go on so many projects. It just adds some flow to it. It's easy, and it's good for beginners, and it's good for experienced people. Thank you. B. Boyle has said, I look very nice in my blue shirt. Thank you. This is a shirt I've had for a while, but I just realized I fit it now. Before it was very tight on my back, and I've lost enough weight that it's back in the rotation, so I'm very pleased to be wearing it. What kind of design board do I have? This is asked by Gerald White. I'm trying to find a good one. Well, I've also made a video on, is it 10? 10 design walls? I think it's 6. I think I have 6 different design walls. So for years, I just used the back of a flannel back tablecloth that I picked up at the dollar store. And that was part of my very first dollar store video. I just attached it to the wall with masking tape. And when I needed it, I needed it. And when I didn't, I didn't. And then I made the small space sewing hack, and I put actual eyelets in that tablecloth, so it was a little bit more permanent. I didn't have to retape it all the time. It just hung from these on the wall. But then I realized I wanted a bigger piece. I wanted to work on something bigger. So I actually went to Home Depot and picked up some insulation foam board. I covered it with a sheet, and I use command strips, and I've put it to the wall so it can be temporary if I need it to be temporary. But I could not believe the difference in my enjoyment of my space once I had that bigger design wall up there. It takes up that whole side of that wall, and I'm now putting up blocks for an 80 by 80 quilt, and just being able to see them every day, seeing your own work come together is inspiring and keeps you motivated, because as we all know, quilting is a marathon, right? And there's a muddy middle. And you need everything you can to keep you inspired to keep going. So yes, I highly recommend a design wall for everyone that can do it. But I also find that I have, from that same sheet that I put around those boards, I stuck some foam board in the pillowcases that came with it, and I use those all the time now as well. Um, I see John from Art East is here, and I did his trending quilt along, and it was great for his blocks, just keeping them all organized once I cut them out. Um, so it's good in a the small ones are good to keep yourself organized, and the big ones are good to keep you inspired. So, highly recommend a design board. People are all talking about decluttering and their successes. I'm so glad to hear that. Teresa Goodnight has asked, what is the best iron? Now, this ironing is interesting because we all come, well, at least my generation, we come from an iron that's used to press clothes. And there was a lot of cotton that needed to be pressed with a really hot iron. And then nowadays, so many clothes never need to be ironed. They're all wash and wear. But, bigger was better. And it's funny, now I've used many different irons. I don't necessarily own them, but I've had the chance to use them. I've used big industrial ones that are used in dry cleaners. I've used the Alicio that pops up and is a fairly big iron. I've used the travel size Alicio. I've got the Panasonic one. I got a Tefal one. And truly, my two favorites are the Panasonic one at home, and I really like that travel size Alicio, because I find that bigger isn't better. We have so many seams, and especially when you're working on the back of it, that a smaller faceplate can be more helpful because you just want to iron the piece in front of you. You don't want to re-iron what you've done before. And the Panasonic sponsored a video for me. It's the very first in the organizational series. I took it for a real test drive for well over a month. And it has some features that you don't even realize that you needed. Um, I really wanted it to be cordless because I didn't want to deal with that cord all the time. When I was ironing my big pieces, the cord seemed to be in the way, so I was excited to try it. But some of the features I didn't know that I needed was it's really nice because it has a base. I can move that base off my ironing table to another location when I'm doing my big pieces and then just bring it over. It's not rechargeable. It works with a heat sink in it. So it holds a certain amount of heat. I've never really run out of heat. Some people complain that it's not hot enough for them, but I find it more than hot enough. And because there's no front and back to it, I'm often using my less dominant hand and using my right hand to manipulate something, or I can use it on both sides. I'm not grounded to where that cord is coming through. So I recommend the Panasonic. I would like to have a second one to go here. I'm using my old Tefal here at the studio, but I really would prefer to have that Panasonic. But that's for me. So I know there's other people out there with other irons and they get good results. One of the things that I've learned many years ago was I don't put water in my iron. I don't use steam. If I ever need to get out a deep crease, I use a spritz bottle. I just use heat, and I'm learning not to hold hold it down with a death grip as well. Nancy Cox, one of my favorite people, has asked. She's enjoyed making some of my stash busters. Do you have a new one planned for this year? I hope to. I have a whole list of stash busters planned. I've got a page of them. I've done the calculations and everything. I just need to make them, and it's a matter of timing. So I hope to have some new ones this year. Memi Yu is saying, I'm still trying to go through my stash. So hard to remove any. I find myself kitting my stash to line up more quilts to add to the do list. Yikes. I've been so sick. I'm so late to start the process. Well, kitting things up, taking your fabric and recombining it and folding it and getting an idea in your head of a quilt, that's not a bad thing. In fact, I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's part of the fun of quilting. You don't have to make it. The trick is just to kit it up and it can sit there. And maybe it'll be the kit that you make this year. Maybe it'll be the one that you pull apart during next year's declutter challenge and put it all back in your stash. It is a wonderful clutterless way to play with your fabrics because quilting is a marathon. There's only so many quilts we can make in a year because it's such a long distance event. It takes so long to go from the first piece to the last piece and put that binding on that our eyes are bigger than our than our stomachs. And how do you have fun without making that big commitment? So playing with your fabrics and kitting them up can give you just as much enjoyment as making a whole quilt. So don't worry about that. I understand the problem of not wanting to part with any fabric. I'm very much that same way too, though I did manage to pass on some this year. And I've got a big pile that's sort of on my hit list too. They're on their last legs. Susan Caracas, I hope that's the right way. Do you recommend oversizing blocks and trimming down? If so, how much do you add? Yes, that's one of my favorite ways of doing it, but unfortunately that only works with certain blocks. So like a half square triangle, I will always round up to the nearest inch. I'm not going to do 7/8. I'm going to round up and then cut it back and make sure that that block is square. And I do that with tumbling, with hourglass blocks and flying, not so much flying geese. I find the 4 at a time method, I can get a pretty accurate result. But there's other blocks. And as I'm making my maple and eucalyptus quilt, there's blocks that are a combination of other blocks. They're a combination of a 4-patch and an HST. And I will make each one of them slightly bigger, trim them down, and then sew them together. And then there's other blocks, like you've probably seen them, where they're even one step farther. They're a combination, and then you've got then they're put on point, and then they're an HST is put on all 4 sides and squared up like an economy block. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I'm always trying to be as accurate as possible. So I don't often make a 4-patch bigger than it's supposed to be. I try to be accurate, make sure my seam is aligned, but anything with an angle, especially things with QSTs, that's the quarter square triangle, because they can distort so easily. Like you just breathe on them and they go out of shape. So I try to, and that's actually in the course that Angie and I are teaching, is this unleashing your sampler superpowers, is just the techniques on how you avoid the distortion and having to overcommit, and how do you get that accuracy. It's over time, and there's just all sorts of little tips that we've learned along the way. Somebody has also asked, more stash busters coming. I'll try. Karen, who inspires me in the quilting world? Well, Bisa Butler. I mean, they come across my feed all the time. She makes some stunning quilts, but there are so many people out there that are finding their own voice. And I think that is, I mean, I love a good quilt. I love looking at a good quilt. A finished quilt, they're all so stunning. But when somebody is is trying to do something different, that's when I pause and think, how did they do that? How did they do that? Um, Cotton and Bourbon, for example, she has taken a technique and she's really pushed herself. Cassandra Beaver, the woman that I'm taking my matchstick quilting class at QuiltCon, you know, she's found something that she's good at, and she's trying to figure out how to push it and push it and push it, and what is she doing with it. Um, there are some fiber artists out there, but I am much more interested in quilts as opposed to fiber arts. But, you know, I like so many different things. I'm inspired a lot by architecture. I was taking an online class the other day, and the speaker had a piece of sculpture in the background, and it totally distracted me. If you've ever watched, what's the name of the show? Um, the soccer guy in England, but the woman who owns it, every scene that the woman that owns the soccer club, every scene she's got this beautiful piece of artwork behind her, and I keep thinking, can I quilt that? Can I quilt that? And that's what I get inspired by. I looking around, trying to figure out how can I take something three-dimensional and turn it into a quilt pattern. And I'm still very much interested in making sure it's a blanket. I'm not interested in not necessarily making it a work of art. Um, yeah. Alexa Cook has asked, can you tell me the approximate diameter of the soccer ball that uses 1-inch hexes? I want to make one for my grandson. I think this is a 1-inch one. Let me just measure this up. Yeah, this is a 1-inch one. Do I have a measuring tape here? Here we go. So this one is, it's about 4.5 inches. Yeah, 4.5 inches. Chris King has asked, how do I manage when I have several projects to make? Work on one day a week, or one at a time? How I normally, if I'm working on a couple of different projects, normally it's because there's a difference in skill level. Like one is easy, one is hard. So the harder one needs more focus. The easy one, I'll either use it as bonus blocks, meaning I'm just sort of pushing those pieces through as I'm making the more difficult piece so that I don't need to break my thread, or I'll use it as a warm-up exercise. And if I feel it's not coming together right, I realize, this is not a good day for sewing. So that's how I usually work on 2 different projects at one time. They can be also at very different stages. Like one is I'm putting on the binding, so I'll work on that when I'm sitting downstairs watching TV with my family, and the other one I'll work on during the day. Or cutting. Cutting is something that I need a little bit of space and breadth and that to do as well. So that's how I work on them. And it's really a mood thing. And of course, time, if something's of the essence, then I just push through on one and leave the others behind. Where do you find register tape? This is Sylvia Martinez is asking. She's running out of it. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at the dollar store. You can buy it at Staples. The trick is make sure you don't buy thermal paper. You're looking for just paper. Thermal paper releases chemicals when you iron it, and of course it distorts and changes color. Susan Vaughn has asked where to get the best left-handed scissors. Get them at a quilt show, because the scissor people arrive with all their scissors, and they will, if you're a left-handed person, if you're not experienced using a left-handed scissor, they can give you guidance. I have a friend who goes back every year to get pointers on how to use it, because it's a real mind over matter thing, because she's grown up using right-handed scissors and using the wrong hand motions. So yeah, that's how I would do it. Is it better to join border strips on the diagonal or the straight seam? So I think you're talking about borders. You're not talking about binding strips. This is Mary Kirchstein. Kirsten, I believe is how you pronounce it. If it is a border, if there's not a design element in it that will make a mitered corner, that's what you call when you're sewing on the diagonal, I would say don't waste the effort, just sew them straight. Because one, it takes up extra fabric. Two, it's challenging. It can easily, if you don't get the angle right, your borders will wave. And why go to all that extra effort unless it's bringing some design element to it? Once you quilt over it, people aren't even going to know that you put all the effort into doing it unless they see those straight lines coming together and making a V or something happening in that corner that you did it. I did that on one quilt. I've made all this effort to make this beautiful miter corner. I mean, I really worked hard to be sure that they were absolutely perfect. And then we quilted them and put a beautiful starburst in the corner, and nobody would even notice that I went to all that effort. So take a look at your fabrics and see whether they'll benefit from it. But that said, if you've got those lines, you've got to make sure that your lines line up too. So there's a lot of effort in it. I've got a border video in the queue because I have a quilt that I made that I'm finishing off where I've got to do that. So keep your eye out for it. Somebody has 2 golden doodles. Well, your house, that Susan Vaughn, you must be so busy. Mando has so much energy. I just can't imagine having 2 in the house playing together all the time, and the craziness that must happen. Audrey Kando has asked, is there a 100-day, 100-block project this year? Yes, there is. And Angie and I have worked on the quilt pattern together. I'm not sure if I've got a picture of it here or not. Let me just check. I don't have a picture here, sorry, but I'll get one. I'll get one for the next Q&A for you. Therese Alexander has said, I am struggling with her mount scrap more. Her biggest struggle is the past expense. Any thought? Well, I'm sure you donate money to charities and things like that. Well, just pass them on to another person and look at it as a donation, because it's not doing you any favors growing in your sewing space. Excuse me. And why should something cost you? I learned. Yeah, that's what I would do. Just find a quilter that you know that uses them. I know people that just sew exclusively with them. They really, really enjoy scraps, and just consider it them are going to a good home. Yeah. Carolyn Stapley has asked, am I going to Quilt Canada in Halifax this summer? I was going to go, but I'm not unfortunately. Fortunately, my daughter became engaged this year and she's getting married in September. So I think I'm going to be busy with, I'm going to be quite busy with wedding plans and getting things together, as well as managing a number of other projects. So unfortunately, not this year. I really, really wanted to go, but I don't think so. If I do, it'll just be one of these things where I fly in and fly out. I won't be there for a week. But I believe, is it next year? Or maybe it's 2 years. It's going to be in Toronto, but I will probably be going the following year. Shelley Pittman has asked, she just got a ruler foot. What are my favorite rulers for quilting? I I don't know whether it's just because I'm not confident enough, but my default always seems to be just a straight edge, and I end up doing triangles and rectangles and spray like starbursts and things like that. Um, I do free motion quilting, but I don't have a tendency to do a lot of other shapes with my ruler work. That's one thing I guess I need to work on a little bit more. So many things to work on. So many things. Gabrielle Jervis says, I'm a beginner quilter and I've been wondering how to tell when I'm ready for a beginner intermediate quilt pattern. So you learn so much. And I know everybody else who has been quilting for some time here will back me up here. You learn so much in your first 5 quilts. I keep telling people to just stay small, just make cuddle quilts and baby quilts, because you'll even see a huge difference between your first blocks and your last blocks. That's how much your skills will improve. I would take a class. If you are looking for something that's a little bit more challenging, I would take a class so that you have an instructor that you can go to and say, you know, I've got this, but I don't have this. I'm finding this easy, but I don't find this easy. And just be careful not to, like, you may want to be doing a king size quilt or whatever. Make sure you do some practice blocks to begin with, just so you don't bite off more than you can chew. I always hear about beginner quilters that start off with the Mariner Star. You know, it's a beautiful quilt, but very, very challenging. So you've got squares, you've got HSTs, then you move to the hourglass and flying geese, and then you've got snowball corners and curves. I would consider intermediate where you're doing what I call compound blocks. So there's blocks that you combine together, like you make blocks and then you combine those blocks together to make a bigger block. I also consider anything working with curves a more intermediate one. It's just managing those biases, right? It can be very frustrating. And if you're still worried about stitch length, if you're still worrying about rotary cutter techniques and how to iron right or better, it's very hard to be working as well on learning how to work with bias fabrics. So take a class. I think you'll find that the having an instructor tell you the little tips and tricks will really make a difference in your quilting. My background blue is so nice. What is the name and brand of paint? I got it from Home Depot, so it's more than likely Bear. I'm not sure if I've got the paint swab here. I still have it here on my desk. Yes, I do. Oh, here I do. It is Bear and... whoops. It's this one. And this is Blue Square. That's the name. It's a one-coat paint. Oh, I have cut my... Brenda Ogden says she has cut her finger with her rotary cutter. Do you know of a really good glove that prevent that? I don't. I don't use a glove when I cut, but I know that there's people out there that do have one. I know Pride and Joy Quilting had a scare and she went out immediately and bought a glove, so she would know, but I'm sure there's other people here in the list that have the glove too. It is a glove that people use that, you know, use those meat cutters and things like that. And that will give you a hand. Sky Young has asked, I need a brighter bulb in my sewing machine. I would love to use an LED bulb so it stays cool, but I'm not quite sure how bright it should be. Any thoughts? So lighting is tricky. I'm hoping when I get to QuiltCon that I'm going to talk one of the people from the Daylight Company into joining me on Karen's Quilt Circle, um, because there's two different parts of light. There's there's the strength and the brightness of it, but there's also the illumination. Like, how far does that brightness go from where the light is? And that's the tricky part, because you can buy a really bright light that its brightness doesn't go more than, a foot away from it. And conversely, you've got other ones that are lesser but have a wider range. So with your sewing table, I would work with something smaller than bigger. Like, I've got one right here. It's on the back of my chair, lighting up my back. Um, and I often have a couple of these just lying around. Um, and there's a control that comes with it, so you can make it brighter and lighter, and you can direct it, like when you need just a little burst of light. And I also have a small little clamp-on ring light right here, and they're really good to have just around your sewing table to just bring in some light into those pockets that you need it. And as you say, LED lights are not, they don't have that heat that halogen or an incandescent light have. I actually find halogen lights trigger hot flashes for me, so I don't want them anywhere around me. But I do find that there is a problem with that distance. Like, I have really big ones like this that I have bought for the studio, and I have to have them so close to me while I'm shooting my main footage, because the luminescence is just so short on them. So that is, I do have my one that I have at home is a daylight one. It is just a long tube. It goes over top of my sewing machine. I really like it because I can really manipulate it. It can, it has a twist in it, and so it can go up, it can go down, and I can really bring it in close, and I can keep it away, and it doesn't get in the way. It's an expensive light, but I have never regretted a dime on it. So I'm hoping that I'll have some more information on lighting later in the year. Oh boy, it is 7:52. I have just been talking away. Oh, Vanessa here. Vanessa from Quilts from Survivors. What is my favorite quilt that I have ever made? That's like choosing your favorite child, right? I have really enjoyed making the Alente Hana quilt from Ships and Violins. It was just the right quilt that I needed at the right moment, and I had some fabric in my cupboard that I pulled out and went, this is perfect. This is just perfect, and I made it. It was a puzzle, and I so enjoyed making it. I enjoyed the results of my 4th of July quilt. I didn't necessarily enjoy making it. I really enjoyed making my farmer's wife quilt. I enjoyed the, there's just so many of them. So many of them. Some of them I've made are my own patterns. Some of them are commercial patterns. So, but really enjoyed that one from Ships and Violins, and stay tuned. I'll reveal it in a couple of weeks. And just, I'm going to give a shout out for Vanessa. If you don't know, I had her on Karen's Quilt Circle, Quilts for Survivors. These are quilts for the survivors of trauma, but more specifically, the residential school system. And they're still accepting quilts. There are still, unfortunately, thousands of people out there that still need one. So if you are thinking of making a quilt, please get in touch with her, because she has somebody that that deserves it. Yeah. You like Susan S. Last question. Susan S. has said, I like sewing with all colors and patterns. How will I know when I have found my colors? Well, some of us have really broad colors. I personally love almost all colors. but you may find that you don't like certain ranges of colors, meaning you don't. Colors are there's tints, tones, and shades of one particular hue, and I don't like desaturated colors. I really dislike sewing with black and white, but you know, all colors are fair game, and you'll just begin to find your nuance. Um, but it's not wrong not to it's not wrong that you like all colors. Um, and yeah, you've got I think you just have it's just an you'll just enjoy it all. That's the wonderful thing about quilting is if you love all colors, you can just play and play and play and play. So enjoy. Um, okay, so before you go, I just want to give you a heads up. Um, on a couple of things. Just in case you don't know, Angie and I are going on a Panama Canal cruise. Um, it is, we had a Q&A. It is in my inventory of my library of videos. We answered a lot of questions, but we have sewing machines, and we are teaching a course on unleashing your sampler superpowers. So if you go to my website, there is a link on the homepage if you are interested in getting more information. If by chance you have not done the declutter challenge this year or you missed it or you want to catch up, those videos are going to be there until like November before we start the next one. So don't hesitate. You can just always find it on the channel. It will always be on the website. And just jump in whenever you need to use it. Last week I had Alessia Lebedenko on the Karen's Quilt Circle. She is a new Canadian from the Ukraine, very passionate, lots of wonderful ideas, and has an incredible paperless piecing series. So check her out. And I also had Brandy Meslowski. You might know her from Quilter on Fire. And she is a quilt judge. And we talked about if you're wanting to enter a show, what quilt judges look for, what you need to, things that you should consider when you're entering a quilt show, and just to get over some fear of entering a show. My last video was on why is decluttering so hard. It's actually much harder to declutter your sewing room than a lot of other spaces in your house. And once you're aware of those reasons, decluttering might be not so tricky for you. And of course, I told you about moving out of my sewing room. And because now I have one child and her partner in Montreal and another child and his partner in BC. So my sewing room becomes a third bedroom more often than I want. So I needed to make a sewing space here. And the next YouTube Live will be March 7th, same time, same place. And I thank you very much for being here. Again, if you're a member of Karen's Quilt Crew, we have a Zoom Stitch and Chat next week, so don't forget to check the community tab. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. It has been absolutely lovely having you here. And yeah, so take care, and I will see you next month.